Welcome to Build Your Arsenal. Comment, like, share, and subscribe to help out the channel. I heard about the recent video from Wyoming Gun Project from a friend. At first, I was sympathetic, but also a little skeptical. The claim was that by taking the pre-travel out of the trigger, then messing with the play between the frame and the slide, you could get a SIG P320 to fire. When I actually watched the video, that's not exactly what was happening. He was pressing the trigger to the wall, pushing just past the wall, and then rattling the slide and the frame until the pistol fired or released the striker. That's very different from just taking the travel out of the trigger. Still, I wanted to see if my P320s would do that and test it out myself. I have my P320 AXG Classic. It has seen a lot of rounds. I'll try to duplicate what Wyoming Gun Project did, so I'll attempt to take the pre-travel out of the trigger, press to the wall, and then move just past it without actually pulling through the brake. The AXG has a crisp, clean brake, so hovering past the wall is easier said than done. Now let's try it on the P320 Spectre Comp. Again, it has a really nice crisp trigger brake, which makes it hard to get past the wall without going all the way into the brake. Now, I know someone will say I wasn't doing this the right way by just pressing the trigger before it breaks, that I needed to be more precise, or it wasn't easy enough to see what I was doing on the camera, but that's precisely my point. Trying to get the trigger past the wall and just before the break is extremely difficult. I'm not denying at all what Wyoming Gun Project was doing will release the striker. The trigger is being pulled in his video. It just isn't the clean, straight through press most of us think of. Either way, it's still input on the trigger. From my perspective in person, neither pistol is going to magically fire without a trigger press. And in my case, a full trigger press. And in Wyoming Gun Project's case, he wasn't showing a free-floating discharge. He was simply pressing far enough into the trigger brake that the frame and slide movement finished it off. It's just not the smoking gun on what's happening with the P320 incidents. If you're carrying the P320 in a manner where the movement of the frame and slide is making your pistol fire because the trigger is being pressed past the wall and just before the break, then the problem isn't the P320, it's the way you're carrying it. This lines up with what Jared AF and Ivan Print Guns have already demonstrated. People are giving the impression that the P320 can just be sitting on the table with a round in the chamber and with nothing happening, and it will spontaneously and suddenly fire by itself. That's not what's happening, but the sensationalism has taken on a life of its own. To say or imply that that is what is happening is irresponsible and ignorant. The default mode should not be that the P320 just goes off without some pull of the trigger. This isn't new though. It's the same people saying this about the P320 who sensationalized that a Series 70 1911 or 2011 isn't drop safe. They acted like this was some sort of divine revelation. This just shows a lack of understanding about how specific firearm designs function and operate. This all starts to sound a lot like the arguments we hear from the anti-Second Amendment side. They already believe guns just fire on their own. And when people push sloppy sensationalism or play keyboard Karen in the comments or just fail to understand how firearms operate, instead of honestly and objectively looking at whether there's a real mechanical issue with the P320, that's no better than the anti-Second Amendment arguments. Some people hammer SIG for the way they've handled this on the PR side, but honestly, I think they're doing exactly what they should. Think about it. SIG has tested the P320 extensively. Independent labs, the military, and countless shooters have put millions of rounds through them. Nobody, not SIG, not the Army, not even all the internet gunsmiths, have been able to reproduce a scenario where the pistol fires without some kind of trigger input. So what is SIG exactly supposed to do here? Halt production? Admit guilt for something that hasn't actually been demonstrated? No. As long as it requires a trigger pull, SIG's statement is accurate. The Wyoming Gun Project video didn't disprove that. He didn't show the gun firing on its own. He showed himself pressing through the brake in a weird, contrived way. That's not a spontaneous discharge. Until somebody actually shows a P320 going off with no trigger input, SIG's position holds. SIG has given people exactly what they've wanted, and they've responded to the market. A striker-fired pistol with a 1911 style trigger. Ernest Langdon has done a great job in some of his videos explaining just how dangerous that is, though, and uses that as an argument in favor of double-action, single-action hammer-fired pistols. It's inherently dangerous. Personally, I think the lack of a trigger safety mechanism is probably to blame. People simply are not treating these pistols like they're a 1911 with a fully cocked hammer, the grip safety depressed, and the manual safety thumbed down. This doesn't mean that I would carry a P320. I wouldn't carry a 1911 with a cocked hammer and all the safeties disengaged, and that's why I don't carry a P320. Agree or disagree with me, let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.